is Mufsin here. We're still doing coverage for the Tribeca Film Festival. Um, we're going to be showcasing one of the games for you guys. We're going to be in conversation with two of the people behind the game, The Big Con. Game director Dave Proctor and art director Saffron Aurora. How are you guys doing?
Good. Very good. Yeah, I don't know. Happy.
As you guys should be, because I got to play the game myself, and the game is fantastic, to say the least. So just to get the ball rolling, can you tell me, guys, how did you guys come up with the whole concept of the Big Con?
Yeah, I mean, something that I always wanted to do was make a game about a con artist. I love con artist movies, and I grew up with playing a lot of adventure games, and it was kind of didn't really realize that we were designing an adventure game until we were well into it. But like when it comes to talking to people and sussing out like what they want and what they need, like that's the loop of a core classic adventure game. And I don't know, it cascaded from there. We originally didn't want to set it where a lot of con artist properties are set in the 60s or the 80s. We wanted to do something in the 90s. And then when Saffron joined the team, she started putting together our whole visual look based on her research and experience of 90s media. And I mean, that's the game. It is the merging of a lot of really talented people having good ideas.
Yeah, I mostly riff off of Dave. Dave comes up with it, and I'm like, all right.
We work well together. Yeah.
I absolutely love how the game looks. It's as you said, it's 90s, inspired, also with the the con artist movies. It's also a nice blend of the two. Was that something that you wanted to have as like part of how the game looks, like the tone of it, and having this like 90s style feel, like with all the stuff that I'm sure some of us grew up like watching as kids, like whether it's Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network or what have you. Like was that the initial concept that you guys wanted to do from the start?
Saffron?
I mean, it's partially also Dave in that, like, initially, I think the game was much grungier. So yeah, when I came on, we sort of went with more inspired by, like you said, like Nickelodeon and some of these, the 90s cartoons. A lot of people bring up Doug, which is very fair because we did look at Doug. Doug, Hey Arnold, Rugrats,
I was thinking more like rocket powered as well.
Rocket powered.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yep, that was on the list as well. Yeah, any cartoon that had like a non-regular head-shaped head. Just take a shape and run with it. Yeah, that can be a head. That was a big inspiration.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely like a different visual look than what we were originally going for. I think grungy was a good word for it. We just wanted to kind of do something a little bit more colorful.
Were you guys fans of the well, did you guys grow up in the 90s?
In different definitions of that word. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was born in the 90s.
I was awake in the 90s. I think that's the difference. Yeah, like I mean, after school stuff. Doug was a big one for sure. Although I didn't realize it until we were making the art, I was like, oh yeah, Doug. Like it didn't click for me. But I loved after school cartoons and like Comedy Channel and stuff like that. It was like growing up on bad 90s comedy and okay 90s cartoons was how I functioned. I don't know what your memories of it were, Saffron.
Yeah, I don't know, running on the playground. Yeah, no, I like in the early 2000s, mostly like the reruns of the 90s stuff. You get it like secondhand. It's like I kind of remember, but I remember it because I watched it. I didn't remember it because I lived it.
Yep.
If that makes sense. So like in a way I already I just got that 90s like distilled into me. It was already all captured on TV.
But it's like it's and this is one of the fun things about living in this like hyper condensed media culture is that like you can just kind of accidentally absorb what the 90s is and understand it, right? Like you can and there's a certain number of things you have to live through, but people see our game and they're like, I know this, I understand this, in the same way that there was a certain way that people understood what the 70s looked like or what the 80s looked like. There's a visual language here that I think is pretty strong.
No, I was gonna say, how long did it take for you guys to work on this game?
I don't know, like 17 years. I don't remember when we started anymore. No, it's the prototype for this was built back in early 2018.
Like when you guys got to work on this, how did Skybound Games get into the picture?
So like making a game about being a con artist has had its own set of challenges, and I like to joke that one of the hardest things was convincing publishers that I wasn't just trying to steal they were the first ones that we duped. No. We've been pitching this game to different people over years and never really found like someone that believed in it the way we believed in it and saw what we were trying to do the same way that Skybound did. So last year at the last PAX ever at PAX East 2020, Justice Harrison from Skybound Games came by our booth, played the game, fell in love with it. So grateful to that guy, and from there on we just started pitching to them and getting to know the team and the whole creative gang and the marketing gang and stuff like that. And I just realized that we were a good fit for each other. We both believed in the game the right way, and we're like their second fully published title, which is a huge honor and a really cool. Like they've published a lot of games, but taking something from egg to bird is the first sentence that came to my head. Taking something from egg to bird. It's the second time.
But yeah, you guys went from showcasing this from PAC East all the way to Tribeca, which is also kind of a big deal. What was that journey like, bringing that all the way to now?
I mean, Saffron was with me at the earliest actual showcase of this game, I think. First time we were ever on display with our current and final art style was EGLX, which is a gaming conference in Toronto, put on by Enthusiast Gaming. And I mean, you cosplayed. Saffron was our first ever cosplayer.
I'll always take that opportunity.
And I wore the wig at one point too, so I don't know. You've showcased a lot of games, Saffron. Why don't you just talk about the level of it?
Sure. Wait, I'm a little confused of like how this relates to Tribeca.
Well, like what was it like showcasing our game, and then how did we get up there? I'll take the can pass the baton.
It was fun. I really like physical spaces. a lot. I really like merch and casing your game in an environment that like fully immerses you in the game. So we got like old furniture. We got like this. Where'd we get the old TV from?
That was actually on loan to us by the enthusiast people at
Yeah,
AGLX. They found us a nice TV.
it was great, and we put our trailer through there, and seeing it from afar, and like seeing people see the trailer because it was so perfect. It was like gritty and like fuzzy, and you could like hit the TV, and sometimes it would like freeze and you'd hit it, and it was just like it was so fun seeing people like come up to it, and we had like candy and stuff. So yeah, I, it's a lot of fun. I do miss it. I miss doing. We were supposed to do TCAF, again in the before times, and I like we had prepared, I think, some fun ideas for that. I really wanted to do a like a scrapbooking, like a magazine, do your own collage thing. So we were on the hunt for all these 90s and like I guess late 80s like magazines that people could cut out and make their own thing. So it was this very like interactive experience. We had some fun like merch designed, which we'll keep in for the future. And TCAF is great too because I love TCAF. You get all everybody, all sorts of creators. I love indies. So seeing everybody come out, and I don't know, we have a very indie vibe to our game. Cutting, paste and all of these different characters. So yeah, I'm sad about TCAF, but hopefully, one day it'll be back and we'll be there.
And it was losing that that physical presence that made us start looking for digital, just from marketing and showcasing perspective, like things to apply for, right? So what events can we be a part of, what contests, what showcases, what can we get into, and we took a shot with Tribeca and got in there. Like it's super important, not just from a marketing standpoint, but as Saffron said, like it's really good to connect with people. Like in part, like when you are marketing your game, like that is very important, but also like on a human level, showing off a video game that you made is a way that makes it sort of complete in a way. Like you can toil a great deal and never show it to anybody, but to me, and I think to the rest of the team too, it's when you get that feedback coming back, when you get people saying like, hey, I played this and I like it, or I don't like this, and stuff like that. Like I think that's a really natural part of the process, or a necessary part of the process. So when we started looking for like that's we just hunted that feeling as much as we could. Karina, our marketing director, is like applying to things all the time. Like, how do we get this in front of people? How do we show this to people? Because it works. It makes people turn their heads. Like our wishlist numbers went up when Steam Next Fest happened, and like people like to react to something that they play.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask, like, ever since the entire world has changed last year. I was gonna say, like, how were you guys able to adapt to being able to work remotely, trying to promote the game, perfect it, and what have you? Like, were there like any big changes you had to go through, any challenges you had to face?
Yes. so many and much.
That's an understatement.
Yeah. So for me, like the thing I miss the most is that Saffron and George, our tech director, and I would meet at George's place every Monday. And like I get to see them in person, and we would talk about the game, and then we would get back to work. And that was when we were running like a really, really tight team, with the three of us, and with Jill Murray, who created our story and did some of the writing in the game, and she was in Montreal. And like a couple people coming in for a few hours here and there, but like it was just this super, super tight group. And since then we've managed to figure out how to work online, but I miss the people. I miss kind of sitting around the game and watching it get played and talking about it in that capacity. Like we've got a sprint review today, and like we're gonna do that, but I can't wait to do it in person again. That was a big part. Apart from that, we were largely remote already. Like we did a lot of work from home. We just had those one meeting that we would show up for. Yeah. What about you, Steph? Like, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, my secret is that I'm always remote.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Clearly.
I I've worked from home for more of my life than not, I feel like. So I do find it easier to adapt. I do find it actually harder, I think, to be in a physical. Well, I like being in a physical space, but it for me it needs to be one or the other. I need to either because I need to get used to one. And so it's either I'm in a space all the time and it's my space, or I'm in the other space. So I do find it hard to make the switch. Yeah, it is much easier, I think, having that schedule of seeing people and being in the same space. You don't have to be like, hey, are you around? And then you have to wait because you don't know if the person is around.
Yeah.
Versus like if you're in a space, you can just be like, hey.
Yeah.
And it's like productivity. It's just much better that way.
Yeah. I think there's ways to mitigate for that in a remote setting, but like you got to lean into it. Like if we could stay completely remote and not have those gaps in productivity, I'd love that. That's from a purely business standpoint, that's $3,000 a month you don't have to pay. $4,000 a month you don't have to pay, right?
What I do like about the promotion you guys did for the game was that music video that you guys came up with. The one that you guys worked on with Rockapella, which
Yeah.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
I haven't heard that name in a long time.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, they were the ones who did the theme for Carmen San Diego back in the '90s. How did you guys get in touch with them, and what was it like getting to work with them on this?
I got to give credit where credit is due. That it was the sort of dream operation of Karina, our marketing director. Each, like what from the '90s would kind of resonate with us with our game, and the greatest thief in '90s media history meets the greatest thief in our game. And like it was a perfect fit. It was a great fit, and we reached out to them, and they were really lovely. They were, excited about the game, easy to work with, and like we have kind of hit it off in a lot of ways. It's really fun to find someone in a completely different medium and connect with them creatively. The music video point, that was all Skyman. Like they said we want to do this, and we're like, yeah, that sounds great. We support you. Go wild. And then we just, I don't know, Saffron and I like woke up one day and there was a completed video in our inbox, and we're like, oh, this is like a whole thing. Didn't know the degree to which they were going for, and so happy with it. It was an absolute blast to watch. And I also got to one thing that's really important to me is always kind of working with local talents. I mean, that often means working with people that I have relationships with, and like the whole Mighty L team is built off of like incredible developers from Toronto. All with a lot of them have their own studios and either work part-time or full-time at Mighty L. And the same for that song. I reached out to a good friend, Matthew Winkler, who helped me write it, and then we showed it to Rockapella and they recorded it. It was just like, it was wild.
Yeah, I enjoyed the heck out of that music video.
Good.
So
I'm glad.
props to them. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Did you guys take any inspiration from like other games when you guys were making the big con? Like, was there anything that popped out to you guys when you were creating it?
Yeah, I want to hear Saffron's answer first.
Why?
Why? Because I like because there was stuff that you brought in that was completely out of my frame of reference that I think is great, and like we did use a bit, or we tried a little bit, and I don't remember what those games were. So like I need you to start that off, because right now it's all this big slurry that is the big con in my head. Like I don't know where anything came from.
Yeah. Okay. I have two off the top of my head. I know that there were, because I feel like for at least for my inspiration, it wasn't necessarily like one game where it's like, ah, yeah, let's pull, like, this is the game we're gonna take a bunch of inspiration from. It's more like I really like the way this game did this thing, and I really like the way that this feels in this game, and let's take these bits and then put it into our game, or I want it to feel like this mechanic. The one that immediately comes to mind, I was thinking about like the feeling of exploring the environment in our game, and like the environmental storytelling and the humor associated with that. So the two games that came to mind are, some of the earlier Pokemon games like that I would play on my Game Boy, and like going around and searching the trash, and it'd be like there's nothing here, but every time I'd still go search the trash. And I loved that. I loved that the game would still react to me and that I could engage with the environment. And Paper Mario was the other big one for me. The humor in that game is fantastic. It's so fun. And yeah, you're able to like engage with the environment and like explore. You want to get lost in Paper Mario. You want to shake every tree. You want to look at every mural, because you never know when something might be there, or there's like a little character that's hidden. And those, were, I think, the kind of yeah, that was the feeling I think that we wanted to capture, and those are the big ones for me.
That's great.
They're really great games.
They are great games. I liked. So I always wanted to know if it was possible to make like an adventure game where you can do more than just the traditional like key and lock puzzle. Like I love Monkey Island and stuff. Like that was what I grew up playing a lot of, and but it's like, here's the door, how do you get through the door? And I wanted to know if it was possible to kind of do this sort of multi path, like quest design, where it's like just little quests that add up to one big goal. Like that's like you played the demo, and that's kind of how the mall level works, is how a lot of our levels work, is like you can play as much as you want, or as much as it's not completely open-ended, not completely systemic, but we've given you a lot to do. It's kind of up to you to see how you play through that. So I look at a lot of when it comes to this kind of design, I think a lot about like open-ended design. Like I think about open world games, and I think about how it's possible to kind of pare that back a little bit, because you can't do this big full open world thing and still have a good, like, I think, bespoke narrative without having a massive writing team, right? So it's this balance between like, I think about something like Breath of the Wild as an example, right? So everything in Breath of the Wild is like actually designed to be positioned in such a way that you pass it and you see it and you want to get involved in it, right? So like, how do we position our quests in such a way that you're like, oh, what did that person say? Oh, what's that item? What's like, how do we move things around the environment so that you're actually intrigued? And we've got levels in the game too big. They're like, people were getting lost. And then we found that if we sort of cordon some of the action to specific areas and give you like reasons to walk into those areas, we can really get you invested in and exploring a little bit more. So it's anything that is fun to explore was a big inspiration, and as much as possible without looking at a map. The Breath of the Wild map is like terrible. It's just like, here's a map, right? It's not, or not terrible, but it's not, you know, Horizon Zero Dawn, which is like, here's a this, here's a this, here's a this. You can go and do all those things, which is also a great way to make a game, but it's just completely different. And the flip side is anything with good writing that made me laugh. I wanted to make people laugh, and I, you know, from what people are telling me, we might have nailed it. We might be making people laugh, but anytime a game has made me sort of laugh out loud, I think it's a good thing to hold on to. And I don't just mean with self-reference and video game references and puns and stuff like that, but I mean like stuff like the writing in Runner 3. If you've played Runner 3, is a
I played Runner.
It's very funny. It has its own voice. It stands alone, and yeah, it's that kind of writing. I want to one day write a game with no puns, because I think indie games are very susceptible to puns, but it is not this day.
Are you guys looking to expand on the game, like any DLCs, or is this one complete game that you guys want to put out there?
There is always more that you want to do. There is always more to do. And we have stories that we would like to tell within this game. Whether or not we get a chance to do those is, and that's not like a Skybound thing or anything. Like, that's just like, you know, the studio has plans, and we got to balance the idea of expanding this game against those plans. So, you know, if the game absolutely kills, like, yeah, you bet, I would love to just keep making content for it. I want to work in this world for a long time. It's really fun. And then who knows, maybe we just start like telling a new story. One of those two things could happen. That's not an answer, but it is. One of my favorite things that Saffron did early on in development was come up with a bunch of character sketches. And one of the characters was this ghost made out of a 90s bed sheet. And she's like, yeah, I just drew this rad ghost. I thought we'd in the game. And I was like, yeah, that's going in. And which is, again, a great example of the way that we work together. And so Rad Ghost is like this character that appears in every level now. He's like your imaginary friend. I'd love to do more with that character. We also have like a weird collector, like pawnbroker guy that I would love to do more with him too. There's characters within the big con that I think they've got more to them that we should crack open.
Certainly. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you guys about the big con. I'm looking forward to seeing what the reactions are going to be like once this game comes out. Do you guys have a date? Do you guys have a date when it actually comes out, or?
Nothing to confirm yet. But this year, that's the dream. There's no reason to believe that won't happen. But yeah, if you follow us on social media, at Mighty L on everything, you'll be able to keep up to date with our announcements and stuff.
Sounds good. Well, you heard that from Dave, guys. Definitely check out the game once that drops. Is that going to be on any other platforms besides PC, or?
Yeah, we're focusing on Xbox and PC right now.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys so much, and best of luck to you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mufsin.
If you're looking for watch-alongs of all your favorite shows, head over to our Patreon. Free accounts get reactions and interactive content. The premium tier unlocks early access to all our latest stuff and a fun Discord community. You can even keep up with Kat and the gang as we dive into video games. Be sure to sign up for free on allagesofgeek.com and make your own account. So come on and geek out with us. It won't be the same without you.